Let me start off by introducing you to Shrey. She is only 6 years old, and what do we know of young children at this age? They are, of course, just starting school, learning how to ride a bike, taking regular naps during the day, learning how to read their favorite book, or perhaps being forced to eat every vegetable to keep them healthy. Basically, we know that every 6-year-old is living a normal childhood. But for 6-year-old Shrey, her life story is one that is far from a childhood filled with happiness. She has by far experienced what none of us would ever imagine a 6-year-old doing. She is a sex slave. At the tender age of 5, her parents sold her to a brothel for the price of $100, which is equivalent to a month's worth of income in Cambodia. Shrey was falsely led to believe that she was being adopted by a wealthy family to give her that childhood that she needed. Upon arrival, she met her new family, sex exploiters and pimps, who only intended to sell her for money. From then on, Shrey endured months of abuse, was passed from man to man, forced to perform sexual acts, and if not cooperative, was often drugged to make her easy to handle. Today I'm going to discuss about one of the fastest growing areas of international criminal activity, sex trafficking. How and why it affects women and children, and how these victims are acquired into this monstrous crime. First off, I'm going to give you a brief background about what sex trafficking is. According to the 2000 United Nations Trafficking Protocol, the general definition of trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power, or of a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the sole purpose of exploitation. But according to Siddhartha Kara, an anti-slavery researcher who interviewed many sex slaves from different areas of the world, sex trafficking is not only about the recruitment and transportation, it is also about slavery, because many of these victims are sold, held captive, and forced to exploit their bodies and body parts. Basically, sex trafficking is a multi-million-dollar sex industry where millions of people are trafficked annually across the nation, where they become victims of slavery in which they are exploited, sold, drugged, and forced to gain huge profits for their exploiters. Now that I have familiarized you with what sex trafficking is, I'm going to show you who is affected by sex trafficking. The majority of the victims involved in sex trafficking are women and children. Women are typically lured into this business because most of them are convinced that traveling elsewhere will give them more opportunities in life and also a better job to support their family. According to one article titled Sex Traffic, one victim of sex trafficking, Anna, thought she was going to another country to work as a waitress as promised by men whom she had just met. Upon arriving to Malaysia, her traffickers and so-called manager confiscated her passport and visa and informed her that she would be working as a prostitute to pay back her debt that her traffickers had spent on her just to bring her here to Malaysia. That very day, her virginity was sold for only $80, where then she was forced to service a variety of customers from day to night. The majority of these women usually never get to pay back their debt, and instead are forced to change their names so that family can't locate them, and usually are brainwashed into thinking that they can rely solely on their sex exploiters to survive. Secondly, children, typically girls under the age of 18, are also easily lured into sex trafficking because of their vulnerability and gullibility. According to the book Trafficking in Humans by Sally Cameron and Edward Newman, an estimated 40% of children under the age of 18 are sex slaves. Most children are led to believe that they are given away to a richer family who can provide way more than what their former family could provide. Sex traffickers have also learned how to dwell well within the public to look like friends, neighbors, or that so-called rich boyfriend to gain close relationships with children and either convince them to run away with them or kidnap them and sell them to sex traffickers. Also, according to the book Prostitution and Sex Trafficking, which contained many different opposing viewpoints on sex trafficking, children who are sexually abused at a young age turn to drugs, alcohol, and prostituting, where then they are lured into the sex trafficking world through their with women and children being victims of sex trafficking, I will discuss 3 ways on how sex slaves are being acquired into this crime. Through deceit, sex traffickers offer a false job offers, travel, or other income-generating opportunity for the purpose of acquiring a slave. A good example of deceit, similar to Anna's story that I just previously mentioned, is from the movie Human Trafficking, which was aired on Lifetime in 2005. One victim in the movie, who is a single mother from Russia, is falsely led to believe that the successful, handsome man she is about to marry loves her unconditionally and promises to marry and take care of her. Upon leaving her daughter to start her life with her boyfriend, she then arrives to his mansion, and to her surprise and disappointment is sold to sex traffickers. Through poverty, families who are in desperate need of money sell their children in order to survive, even without knowing that the future of their children holds for them. Families who live in countries where poverty thrives sell their children for 2 months of worth, which sometimes is only worth $20 to $30. In some cases, families usually sell their children out of greed and convince other families to sell their children in order to survive. According to the book Not for Sale, The Return of the Global Slave Trade and How We Can Fight It by David Batstone, one victim named Bridget, who was sold by her family, commented that we are like slot machines to our family. Lastly, another way women and children are being acquired into sex traffickers are through the recruitment of former sex slaves. According to the book Sex Trafficking, Inside the Business of Modern Slavery by Siddharth Kara, he mentions through his experience of research and interviews that through many years of sexual enslavement, several women become allies of their owners. Most of these women travel around from different cities and countries and recruit new slaves. They are usually given the finest clothes to present themselves in a professional manner and are promised a commission for every sex slave they recruit. As a review of what I have discussed, I'm going to summarize the information that I have just shared with you. Sex trafficking is a multi-million-dollar business which will continue to thrive for many years and by far a crime that will be impossible to stop. Women and children under the age of 18 will continue to be victimized through this crime as long as sex traffickers find the need to profit off them. Lastly, acquiring sex slaves through deceit, poverty, and recruitment will continue as long as this business of sex trafficking continues to flourish around the world. Hopefully, I've informed you well about sex trafficking and how this business works. And although this crime will continue for many years, at least you are now aware of it and will be able to pass this information along to others. As for Shrey, I'm sure she is out there somewhere in this world. Maybe she did get to learn how to ride a bike, or perhaps she learned how to read her favorite book. But for all we know, she is a sex slave and is possibly standing and waiting in the streets for the next customer to come along so she can do her job and get money to pay back the debt. Thank you.